Starlight, star bright, one starry night. This is the story of Filey the dragon. Dragons are often feared in tales and stories, typically playing the role of the villain. But have you heard of Filey? This dragon story isn't what you'd expect. It comes with a sweet twist. In the beautiful seaside town called Filey in North Yorkshire, England, people lived a simple rural life. They grew their own food, fished in the sea, and shared stories under the wide, starry sky. Their days were filled with hard work, but also with the beauty of the natural world around them. The town was known for its steep cliffs that provided breathtaking views where the land met the sea. Although the town had a unique landscape, people made their homes here, with some near the shore, having a closer view of the ocean and the waves going up and down the sand, while others are up on the hills where they can see the cliffs from above. Everyone in Filey enjoyed a beautiful view, each from their own special spot. Simple rural life. So no Wi-Fi? How do they survive? I bet their version of high-speed internet is how fast the rumors travel. This type of world requires a good set of lungs to yell your message out your window. You can't just slide into people's DMs. No, it takes a lot of yelling. Yet in this lovely town, there's one area that seems a bit out of place. Not too far from Filey is a cave known as the Dragon's Den, where Filey the dragon lives. No one knows exactly when the dragon started living there, but Filey the dragon has been a part of the town for as long as anyone can remember. Dragons in folklore are often portrayed as menacing creatures that threaten people's safety, livestock, and crops, leading to a strained relationship between the creature and the townspeople. This tension led the villagers to make many brave but unsuccessful attempts to rid themselves of the dragon. They often ventured out at night, armed with farm tools as weapons. These efforts only made Filey the dragon more active and cautious at night. Filey the dragon was not the only one to adapt. The townspeople also decided it was better to stay inside at night to be safe from the dragon. This new way of living made it harder for people to visit and interact with each other, leading to a more distant and reserved community. These adjustments were difficult for both the townspeople and Filey the dragon, but Filey is their home, and none of them plan to leave anytime soon. Dragons in folklore? Terrifying. But Filey the dragon? Just another neighbor who hasn't quite figured out the whole community living thing. He might as well have invented social distancing. But on the bright side, you never have to worry about uninvited guests or door-to-door salesmen. And this is the perfect excuse for introverts not to go out. It's a win-win situation. Filey the dragon was huge, covered in shiny green scales that could sometimes sparkle blue in the sunlight, and these scales were incredibly tough, acting like natural armor for protection. Filey the dragon also had big claws and enormous wings so wide they could shade the sun. Its eyes glowed bright yellow and green and had a long, wide mouth filled with dozens of sharp, pointy teeth, and when it roared, it was like the sound of thunder. Filey's dental situation is so intense that even the tooth fairy refuses to visit. When Filey roars, it's like thunder on steroids. You know how some people have a voice that carries across the room? Filey's got a roar that doesn't just carry, it packs up, moves to a new city, and starts a new life. Our tale starts with a baker who moved to Filey seeking a fresh beginning. She chose a cozy home just a little way outside the village. The perfect spot for someone who loves peace and quiet, yet wants to stay close to the townsfolk and embrace nature. The move was a big step. It was filled with hopes of friendly faces and new friends. However, the reality was different. The people in Filey were not as welcoming as she had imagined. They kept to themselves with their curtains drawn tight, barely stepping out unless necessary. By day, the village buzzed with activity, but as night fell, it was as if everyone vanished, retreating into the safety of their homes. The Determined to fit in and make connections, the baker settled into her new life and decided to bake something special, a parkin cake. She hoped this treat would bring everyone together, and after perfecting her recipe, she made a large batch of the warmly spiced cake, loaded it onto her wagon, and set off to share with her new neighbors, hoping to make new friends. So she does what any sane person would do in a new, quiet village. She bakes a cake, because nothing says they come in peace like a warm, lovely cake. It's a universal truth. If you can't make friends, bake for them. However, her journey took an unexpected turn. Suddenly, a noise like thunder rolled across the clear night sky, startling her. Confused, she looked up to see not clouds, but a huge shadow gliding above. Dropping her wagon, she dashed to the nearest shelter, a line of trees, and from there, she watched in awe as the shape revealed itself to be a massive dragon soaring through the sky. From her hidden spot, she saw the dragon carefully take the cake and eat it, leaving her wagon unharmed. Surprised, she stepped out from behind the tree. The dragon glanced at her briefly, then flew away. Now, curious and intrigued, she decided to bake another parkin cake the next day, placing it in the field where she first encountered the dragon, to see if the dragon would come back. And just like before, the dragon returned, eating the cake while the baker watched from a distance. Imagine baking a cake so good that even the local wildlife can't resist. Except it's not a squirrel, it's a dragon drawn in by the scent of your parkin cake. But you know what I found really funny? When the dragon eats your cake, the only logical thing to do is bake another one, obviously. Wanting to know more about this mysterious creature, she thought of a way to follow the dragon. She decided to use small marks on the trees as a guide to find her way back, allowing her to track the dragon to its cave without getting lost. Over the next few days, she continued to visit the dragon's cave with more parkin cakes, each visit helping to build a bridge of friendship between them. Given her earlier observation with the people in Filey keeping to themselves, she chose to keep her growing friendship with the dragon a secret. She didn't want to be seen as odd or different, especially since the townsfolk were already a bit distant. With time, the bond between Filey the dragon and the baker grew into a deep and meaningful friendship, marking the start of a unique connection in the town of Filey. Because when you need to find a dragon's lair, breadcrumbs just won't cut it. No. She's like, GPS, never heard of her. I've got tree bark and cake. But I think I'm onto something. The baker's love language is baking cakes, and clearly this is the best strategy if you want to be besties with a dragon. One day, as the baker was busy making a large batch of parkin cakes for Filey just before closing her shop, a regular customer asked her, "Why are you baking so much cake at the end of the day when hardly anyone comes to buy them?" Seizing the moment to possibly make new friends in the town, the baker shared the story of her unique friendship with the dragon, expecting excitement or curiosity. Instead, the customer reacted with sheer disbelief and shock, with her eyes widening and jaw dropping in astonishment. The conversation ended abruptly, as the customer left without a word, leaving the baker feeling a mix of regret and confusion. She wished she had kept her secret, worried that she had made a mistake in revealing such an unusual friendship. Yet the very next day, the same woman returned, this time with her husband, asking for a large order of parkin cakes to befriend the dragon themselves. Eager to help and share the experience, the baker offered to guide them, only to be cut off by the husband, who insisted they wanted to go alone and to lighten her load and build their own connection with Filey the dragon. They assured her it was their way of doing her a favor, allowing her to rest while they took over the task of delivering the cakes. This is a bit sus. Suddenly everyone wants to be BFFs with Filey the dragon just because of some parkin cake? It's like they're thinking, sure, dragons were the bad guys, but have we tried feeding them cake? They seem to have forgotten their long-standing feud with a dragon. Remember what I mentioned earlier? Perhaps attacking dragons with swords wasn't the best way to make friends, and maybe cakes were the answer all along. Feeling a bit confused, but Also happy about making new friends, the baker agreed, hopeful for Filey the dragon and her new friends. This experience marked the beginning of a new chapter for her and the town of Filey. As her bakery business flourished, she found herself busier than ever. She became so popular that she needed to extend her working hours, and this change also led her to begin delivering custom cakes after her usual business hours. But she made sure it wasn't too late into the night. This left her with no time for her visits to Filey the dragon. So, are bakers rolling in the dough? It wasn't just her routine that was changing. The whole town began to shift. She noticed that little by little, people started to go out more at night, becoming friendlier and more social. This gradual change showed that the town of Filey was becoming a livelier place after sunset, with neighbors venturing out more and enjoying the nighttime together. It was on one of these delivery rounds that she overheard people talking about how life in the town had improved since Filey the dragon was defeated. The news stopped her in her tracks, her heart racing with shock and concern, and she listened closely as they praised her new friends, the woman and her husband, who had taken advantage of Filey the dragon's weakness. They put way too much syrup on the parkin cakes to make Filey's jaws stick shut forever. This had left Filey weak, unable to open its mouth to eat or gather any strength, slowly growing weaker. Heartbroken and filled with a rush of worry, the baker grabbed her cart of parkin cakes and ran as fast as she could to the dragon's den, desperate to help her friend. What a sticky situation. The baker has no time to loaf around and needs to save Filey, but in all seriousness, I won't even give a proper commentary. Let's just move on to the next part. We need to know what happens next. When she arrived at the dragon's den, the baker rushed over to Filey the dragon and wrapped her arms around it in a warm embrace. Overwhelmed by sadness and guilt for playing a part in hurting her dear friend, who was innocent and kind-hearted, she fell to her knees and cried. Filey, weak but aware, puffed out smoke and slowly opened its eyes, signaling the baker to follow its gaze into the darkest part of the cave. To the baker's astonishment, she discovered large dragon eggs. At first, the baker felt torn, wondering if destroying the eggs would spare them from a difficult future in Filey. But looking at them, she felt a surge of hope. These unborn dragons could experience a different, loving future. She turned to see Filey's eyes filled with sadness and exhaustion. The baker promised Filey she would find a safer place for her eggs where they could be cherished, accepted, and live freely. She gently placed the eggs on her wagon, and as she prepared to leave the cave, she noticed Filey watching her. At that moment, the baker thought she saw a smile on Filey's face as she took her last breath. Determined to honor Filey's legacy, the baker carefully loaded the eggs and some parkin cakes onto a boat. She set them adrift on the sea, hopeful that they would reach a place where humans and dragons could live together in harmony and enjoy as many parkin cakes as they wanted. The story of Filey the dragon teaches us about the power of unexpected friendships and the importance of looking beyond our fears and prejudices. Yet it also shows the power of taking responsibility for one's actions and striving to make amends, demonstrated by the baker's efforts to save Filey's unborn dragons. And that's where our tale ends, but not this story. I hope you'll keep the story alive and share it, passing on the magic of stories.